So in this video, I'll be comparing the Canon EOS R5 to the Ursa Mini Pro 12K. Now like always, I will not be talking about everything about these two cameras, but if you have any questions, just let me know in the comments below. Now additionally, I paid for these cameras myself, so I am not required to say only good things about them, so keep that in mind. And lastly, like always, I will not do too much on these clips because color grading is an art and people have their own opinions on what looks good. So I try to keep everything even Stevens and very natural. Now let's begin. Let's start with what popped up right off the bat, as sharpness. Now like everything else, how sharp something is a matter of preference, so there's no wrong or right answers to this, but good cheese whiz, the Canon R5 is flippin' sharp. It's insane. I know it tricked quite a bit of people when I uploaded that side-by-side video because people were thinking the having 12K will mean it's sharper, but no. Using the same exact lens on both of these cameras, the Canon R5 is sharper than, it's just sharp. Now to me, it's too sharp. It was actually hurting my eyes, so in some of the videos I uploaded, I actually had to turn down the sharpness in the Camera Raw tab in DaVinci Resolve since it is on by default for some reason, which is crazy. So sharpness goes to Canon R5. Next up is color rendition out of the camera. Like I stated in previous videos, if you take enough time and effort, you can make everything look good. But what I noticed between these two cameras straight out is this. The R5 still loves saturated pink colors and a little bit of green in the skin tones, while the Ursa Mini Pro 12K loves magenta in the skin tones, and the greens like grass and trees usually render brown. Knowing that, all I have to say is really just pick your poison, because they can be fixed both in post-production. If I had to pick one, I'm gonna have to go with the Ursa Mini Pro 12K, since the way it renders color is more natural, neutral, more like an Alexa than the R5. The R5 still gives out that Canon video-ish look to it. Next topic is underexposure. Like always, I kind of do this test just to see how much you can underexpose the cameras, so I went with 4 stops under at first, which the Canon R5 you'll start to notice a lot of noise and vertical and horizontal lines, while 4 stops on the 12K is just noise you're dealing mostly. 6 stops underexposed on both cameras, the Canon R5 looks like the Matrix, while the Ursa Mini Pro 12K obviously has more noise and the colors are really off. That being said, you can underexpose the UP 12K a little bit more than the Canon R5, but honestly 3 stops under is probably maximum I would do with these two cameras. Next up is highlight recovery. Now this is gonna be crazy, so I'm gonna go ahead and jump to DaVinci Resolve because it's better for me to show you than just talk about it here. Alright, so here we are in DaVinci Resolve 17 beta. So here's the problem. Every time I do an overexposure test, a lot of people kind of tell me like, hey, do it this way, do it this way. So I'm going to do it a little bit different this time, and I'm going to show you kind of like how I came up with my verdict as far as overexposure goes. And please, if I am doing something wrong, let me know in the comments below, because guys, comparing two different cameras and trying to make them similar at the same time is very difficult. So what I'm doing right now is taking previous comments and previous tips from you guys and applying it here to see if I can find my solution or my verdict, okay? So let's go ahead and take a look at these files. So the Canon Raw right here is on the left side and the Blackmagic Raw is on the right side. And you can see here the scopes pretty decent there, pretty much the same exact thing. All right, so the Canon on the left side was shot at ISO 400 because that is the native ISO of the Canon camera, and then the Blackmagic design is was shot at ISO 800 because that is the native ISO of that camera. Now to compensate for the exposure, I just made the shutter speed on the Ursa Mini Pro 12K 100 of a second, and then the R5 was at 1/50th. So that should even up. They both had 4 stops of ND filter, and they were stopped down to 5.6 on both cameras. So that's what we're working with. That's the camera settings, and this is the result that I got. Now I was totally shocked by this, and that's why I'm kind of making this video. So maybe if I missed a step, you guys can point it out. All right, so here we go. I'm gonna go ahead and take highlight recovery for the Ursa Mini Pro 12K, and as you can see there, it did a pretty good job. Now before I was using Canon LUTs and Blackmagic LUTs. A lot of people don't like that, so what we're gonna do now is convert this to Rec 709 per one of the Blackmagic design people that work there that commented on my video. He said go ahead and do Rec 709 instead of extended video because extended video is apparently not Rec 709. So that's what we're doing right now. Let's go to Canon Raw. I'm going to go ahead and switch over to full res Canon. I'm going to go ahead and go Rec 709, Rec 709. Boom, shakalaka. That's what I saw when I shot the clip that day. It looks like that. And then in a Blackmagic Raw, I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing here. Rec 709, Rec 709. And then we'll go from there. And as you can see, fairly similar result there. Obviously, it's going to just vary a little bit, but overall, they should be similar. All right, so let's work on the Canon first, okay? So, like I said, from previous videos, this is what people are saying. So what we'll do first is drop the ISO. We can all agree, okay? And we're just trying to recover the highlights here. That's all we're doing, okay? And then what I'm going to do is drop down the highlights tab. So you're getting a little bit there. And what I'm going to do next is drop down the exposure. See what that did to the highlights over there, the clipped highlights. It did a really good job. I wish I can make this bigger. There you go. Make this a little bit bigger for you guys. All right. So as you can see, within a couple of drags, we went from, you know, like before, and then I'm going to have to redo everything else because there's no after. So 100 highlights and then exposure, and then we're going to go Rec 709 to Rec 709. And as you can see, it did a really good job recovering those highlights. Bravo, Canon. That looks amazing. Looking at this, I actually think this recovers more than the 1DX Mark III. So that's what we're working with. And this was 5 stops over exposure. I had a 4 stops, but they killed, both of them killed it. So I went to 5 stops. Okay, so here we are with the Canon camera on the left. All right, so now what we're doing is on the right side. So obviously they don't have the same controls, but we're gonna find our way to match that Canon's highlight recovery. Okay, so we're gonna drop the ISO down. Goes down to 125. Awesome. We have highlight recovery on. We ticked that already. All right. So I mean the gamut compression doesn't really matter, but we'll take a look at that as well. All right, I'm gonna drop the exposure down, and there you go. Okay. Now, somebody, I'm pretty sure it was the guy that worked at Blackmagic Design, he said, go ahead and drop the highlights in the color wheels as well. So let's do that. Okay, so I'm just gonna drop it so I can see if I can get more detail on the highlights there. I mean, even though it's a little bit different now. So I'm gonna go ahead and raise it up so it matches the exposure here, and you can see what I'm looking at here left and right. But the thing is, if you look on her forehead, you're gonna see something that I did not expect. And I don't know so far, guys, with all the stuff that I'm doing in DaVinci Resolve, this is full transparency here. As far as you can see, what I moved around in DaVinci Resolve, this is the result that I'm getting. Do you see her forehead right here in the top right corner? And I'm gonna make it bigger. Control F. That's gone. This clip was shot simultaneously, same time, like legit. Pressing record button twice. Look at this right here, and look at this right here. And that's why I made this video, because am I missing something here? I mean, usually, as far as highlight recovery goes, I mean, I can turn this all the way down to -5, but you can see that that forehead is gone. The details on her forehead is just gone. And over here, you can see it better. You see that? That's burnt right there, and that's not burnt. So, are we to say that the Canon R5 8K RAW has a better highlight recovery than the Ursa Mini Pro 12K? I mean, that's kind of like the verdict that I found while doing this test outdoors when it's not controlled. But that's the question I have. Did I miss a step? Maybe. Everything was shot the same, as you can see, as you guys saw in the beginning when the charts were up. But yeah, let me know in the comments below. I mean, and then the gamut stuff like I talked about, I didn't really do anything here. I know people are gonna say don't use Rec 709, so let's do that real quick. We're gonna do just Blackmagic Design Film and do the same thing. Let's try and see if we can get that forehead back. Alright, so I'm gonna drop the exposure down again. And all we're doing is trying to get details, like recovering highlights here. Alright, so what I'm going to do is stretch that. I'm going to stretch it now. And this is no LUTs, straight from log. Raw. Blackmagic film. Alright, you can kind of see that it's not there anymore. It's really clipped. See, there you go. I mean, ugh. And then I already have the highlights at -100 here. Alright guys, so just let me know in the comments below if I missed something, but for the looks of it right now, as it stands, the R5 can recover more highlights than the Ursa Mini Pro 12K. With all that out of the way, here are some of the features I give to the Canon R5, and that is, it's the size and weight. Although I think it's what's causing the overheating shenanigans, because this thing is so small considering the fact that it shoots 8K RAW internally. I didn't actually run into any overheating issues while using the camera in both 8K RAW and 4K slow motion, so maybe I got lucky. I will also give the R5 autofocus. I was truly impressed with the 1DX Mark III autofocus last year, so I knew the R5 was gonna be good, and by far, right now, the R5 has the best continuous video autofocus I have ever used. Now, I'm gonna be taking a look at the camera everyone is calling the best camera of 2020, which is the Sony a7S III, to see if that camera would change my mind. The R5 also trumps the Ursa Mini Pro 12K with stabilization. Again, just an amazing feature to have in a camera if you have shaky hands, but honestly, I usually turn it off. Okay, so what did the UM12K beat the R5 on? First up is how the camera's downscales. Everyone knows when downscaling the UM12K to 8K 6K, you're getting the full readout of the sensor instead of cropping. That is probably the best feature the UM12K has. Additionally, the Ursa Mini Pro 12K has a lot more slow motion capabilities in different resolutions you can shoot up to. Now you can shoot up to 120 frames per second on the R5, but I don't think there's a CFast Express fast enough to handle that right now, but let me know if I'm wrong. But slow motion and frame rates will have to go to Ursa Mini Pro 12K because you can record slow motion in RAW. Additionally, the UM12K does have built-in ND filters, which 2, 4, and 6 stops, all built in. That will save you some money in the long run. Next up is stills capabilities. The R5 shoots stunning 45 megapixels stills, and the UM12K shoots 80 megapixels stills. Insane for both cameras, but the R5 will win this one since it's full frame. The image you get out of the camera is out of this world, which brings us to the elephant in the room, and that's resolution. Does 12K trump 8K? Well, the answer is yes. But if you have been with me for a hot minute, you know I don't really care about resolution. I want color science, dynamic range, and a good color profile to go along with the camera. So yes, the UM12K beats out the R5 in resolution, but Blackmagic stopped the resolution race. Listen to your heart. Anyways, that's all I got for you all today. If you want to see more comparison videos, please do like this video and subscribe. As you all know, I don't have any sponsors for doing this kind of reviews, and you are the only thing that's keeping this channel alive. So please share, care, and grow a pair. Peace out.